So we are going live now, and I think uh, yes, our speakers have also joined. So good evening, everyone, and I welcome you all for the Global Youth Summit 2022 being organized by IDYM. In which today we'll be discussing about Sustainable Development Goal 2, that is no hunger. We are blessed to have another panel of talented speakers from all over the world who will be sharing their views on the topic Zero Hunger. I welcome our speakers, Dr. Dragon Janawar sir, Dr. Emmanuel sir, Asad Ruxana ma'am, and Professor Dr. Mehreen Mia ma'am. Uh, Whenever we hear this word zero hunger, sometimes we might thinking, do we really need to discuss about it? Because we think we have so much of dishes in our plate every day. We have so much of cuisines to enjoy every day, and we have choices. We plan to make so many dishes every day. So, is there really a need to discuss about the zero hunger? Yes, it is very alarming to know that many people, in fact, millions of people die every day due to hunger. And in fact, that the number of people dying due to hunger is even more than the people who die due to diseases like AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria. So, here on this platform of IDYM, let's take this opportunity to discuss this topic and explore the problem and to find out solutions for it. So, without wasting much more time, I just request our first speaker of the session, Professor Dr. Mehreen Mia ma'am, to please start with her presentation. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum, and I greet everyone in the universal greeting of peace with blessings. I thank IDYM for this opportunity and my fellow speakers, and I thank you, the moderator, Sister Anjun, for the welcoming and for being here as well. We're talking today about something that is passionate, I think, to every one of us, because this is something that has hit many people who never thought it would be a problem they'd be facing. And of course, the pandemic brought it about in the worst form ever for many, many different areas. Here in Africa, we face it on a daily basis. We faced this challenge of hunger prior to COVID, and it's still there. It actually has worsened in many parts of the globe. So today we are discussing zero hunger, Sustainable Development Goal. What does that mean? It's exactly just that. We're trying to sustain a goal. We're trying to develop a goal. We're trying to make sure that we reach a point where our people of the entire globe are people that do not go to bed hungry, are children that do not go unfed. So, what are we also trying to do with this goal? We are trying to achieve food security. How are we trying to do this? By improving nutrition and promoting sustainable agriculture. Big words. What exactly does this all mean? Especially because, like Sister Anjum had said, hunger is the leading cause of death in the world. Yet many of us can very easily say that we are surrounded by tremendous resources. We have means and capabilities of how to be able to sustain ourselves. What are the problems that we face, and why can we not do this? Why can we not sustain, like the word says, sustainable development goals? Why can we not develop ourselves? Because we might have the resources around us. We are lacking the access. We do not have equal access. One may have excess access, and the other doesn't have any on how to grow and farm, how to develop and sustain themselves and their families and their homes. And of course, you have then the issue of malnourishment, which is something that is seen in remote areas around Africa, around the globe. And if we have to promote agriculture, if we have to really get in touch with what technologies are teaching us now, we will definitely be able to solve the issue of what exactly is causing the hunger and what exactly can be done to curb this. So, without wasting any more time, today I would like to discuss just a few of the targets, not all of them, because we can go into many, many hours if we discuss each one of them in length. But I will discuss just a few with what it means, and then I will conclude with what this means for us as a person. So, target one for zero hunger is labeled universal access to safe and nutritious food. Now, again, I will say this out loud. It's much easier said than done. And it's good for us to know what these things mean. It's good for us to know what we're talking about, to have such discussions. But again, the question is, what are we doing to implement them? What activities are being seen around you right now to show that we are actually trying to end hunger? How are we actually ensuring the access by every person in our areas, in particular the poor, in particular the people that are vulnerable or have lost their jobs, including our babies around us? Because that's one of the things that I found. The issues are that many people have now lost their jobs due to COVID. Yes, unfortunately, that word has to keep coming up in every discussion because it's made things that were bad a lot worse. I have found in my going out and my humanitarian work and activism, the areas that I used to just go to do a normal feeding scheme in have now become so bad that instead of me leaving a parcel of groceries that would help a family for 30 days, it's now become so bad that we need to leave more that helps that family on a weekly basis. Why? Because now we have kids that are home who are not going to school because they don't have the provision anymore or the means. And of course, we also have the issue of people losing their jobs. So they're staying home, can't find new jobs because companies are not employing anymore. So there's more people to feed, more time to have to feed them in. So instead of feeding one meal a day in a family, you're having to feed three. And you're feeding each one of them. Many of the time we go into areas and we find there are infants not getting enough of their nutrition that they need. Moms themselves are malnutrition, so they can't actually feed their children by breastfeeding. It is actually sad. It's the saddest state that many people are finding themselves in, and we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing? What are we doing as communities, as society, to actually try and help the people around us to deal with what they're dealing with? Because it's hurting. It hurts them. It hurts us to see them. Because remember, like our sister said earlier, we are fortunate enough to ask our children sometimes, what do you feel like eating today? We are fortunate enough to make a choice of whether we want meat or vegetable. I have been in areas where children find it so absolutely amazing to merely have a stone to play with and then suck on and throw back into the dirt and suck on it again. As gross as that might sound to many people watching this right now, that is the reality for some children out there. They find solace in that. Is that what we want for life? This SDG is trying to help us to sustain people, help us develop people so that we don't have to have a stone for a child to have to find solace in or curb their hunger with. That leads us to number 2. When it comes to number 2, we're saying we want to end all forms of malnutrition. I just spoke about what I found when I went into different locations here in South Africa. And one of the things that we need to understand is children under the age of 5 need a lot of nutrition because that's when their brain's being developed. How do we expect our children to develop themselves, whether it's in a schooling environment or whether it's just at a home environment, if they're not getting any form of nutrition at all? Our women, our elders, our people are malnutritioned. Yet you have half of the population of the world overnutrition, if I may use the term, where they overindulge, and you have the other half who have nothing. How are we balancing the scale so that we're actually able to say, you know what, I need to share. I need to share. If my children have a choice, do my neighbor's children have a choice? Or are they suffering? The neighborhood that's next to me, are they okay? Are those children okay? So are we actually any actively involved to actually say we are wanting to end the malnutrition? Are we able to say that we are actually helping or contributing in any way whatsoever to end and make it zero hunger for everybody? You know, it's not just about the money. Yes, it does take money, but it also takes time and effort. If you are somebody who is owning a business, if you are somebody who is wealthy, I'm not targeting somebody who's wealthy by saying what I'm about to say. I'm merely making it aware. I'm making you aware. I'm making us all aware. If you are somebody who has the means, are you actually delivering to make sure that there are people who are able to eat on a daily basis? Because that's what the problem is, the imbalance of the structures around us, the governments, the corruption, the issues that are making it so difficult for even a government grant to reach the relevant people that need it on time, leave alone the amounts that are being needed. People that are living off the measly amounts governments are giving them, they're just making do and are surviving day by day. So people are not living, people are merely existing. And I ask, is that fair? How are we ever going to be making it to 2030 by saying we reached the goal if we haven't reached reality? The reality is that we are really not pushing. We're not pushing hard enough from a government perspective. We're not pushing hard enough from the leadership perspective. Because it's well and good, like I said before, to talk about these things, but we need to implement. Business people need to come forward. They need to be able to say, I'm doing my bit. I'm putting this forward. I'm saying, tell me what you need. Are you right now involved in any NGO? Are you helping any charitable organization? Are you involved in anything? Is your child involved? Are you involved in the school structures that are feeding the children who come from malnutrition homes? Because right now there are many children in schools who are living off just that one meal that the school provides. I know this because one of the schools is I'm busy with. But the point is, can a child sustain themselves merely on that one sandwich that they're receiving at the school? Go home to no food? This is not what we're looking for in fairness, which leads us to the other targets. One of them being doubling the productivity and incomes of small scale food producers. Here, we're trying to maintain and sustain small development enterprises. But how are they going to do it if we don't actually offer what we need? When we're looking at our farmers, when you ask any child right now, what do they want to do when they grow up? How often is it that you're going to hear a child say they want to be a farmer? Hardly ever. Why? Because for some reason, we have brought the state of the farmer or the status of a farmer to a low category. And we've placed the doctor and the engineer and the scientist and the lawyer at the top of the range. Yet, do we realize that every single one of us is really relying on that farmer for us to survive? Our children need to learn the skills of farming. Our children need to learn the skills of agriculture. That is where the essence is going to be about how to maintain the genetic diversity in food production, for example, which is another target of zero hunger. The other target is to invest in rural infrastructure, agricultural research, technology, and gene banks. All of these targets, and there are 8 of them, every single one of them, including the last one, which is ensure stable food commodity markets and timely access to information. Every one of them is linked to one thing. That is information, that is awareness, and that is us relying on the sustainability. How are we going to actually do this? The number one is to face the reality for what it is. So as much as we'd like to sit with the UN, as much as we'd like to sit at government structures and we'd like to say A, B, and C, on the ground, it's a different story. On the ground, the people are suffering. On the ground, the children do not have the food. On the ground, it is now 2022. We only have 8 more years until 2030. How far have we come to make sure we're reaching any portion of the goal? If anything, we've worsened. Go into any location area in Africa, not just South Africa, in Africa. And I'm using Africa as an example for the tool. We have got malnutrition based as a norm in these areas. And that is sad. If anything, that is sad because people are suddenly finding that if I'm hungry, it's okay. And that is sad because it's not okay. It's not okay for our neighbor or any person or any child to be saying, it's okay, I'm hungry, it's just another day, tomorrow is going to be better. No, No. One of the things we need to teach and we need to learn is that I cannot go to bed with a full tummy if my neighbor or anyone around me is going to bed hungry. So you might have a slice of bread, share it. You might have the wealth, share it. If you don't have the wealth, you have time. Go and join an NGO and try and help those that need help. Help yourself by helping others. It is up to us. Like I said when I started, this zero hunger is something that is a global pandemic. We had the COVID pandemic, yes, but we had 4 other pandemics. We had the pandemic of hunger, pandemic of poverty, the pandemic of mental health issues, and the pandemic of this virus, all at one go. And we focused so much on the pandemic of the virus that we neglected the hunger, we neglected the poverty, and we neglected the mental health issues, and they are all linked. They are all linked. One is linked into the other. So this zero hunger is linked to the next one, which is the no poverty. We are now at the poverty line. We are at the hunger line, if not beyond it. Our people are suffering. I wish I could have come onto this platform and had a discussion to say, wow, we've reached it. We're nearly there. Our people are winning. We're seeing people that are with full tummies. We're seeing kids that are so well developed. I can't say that because the reality is that's not the case. Globally, it's not the case. In Africa, it's not the case. In South Africa, it's not the case. And I have to just conclude by asking, what are we doing to change it? What are you doing to change it? What am I doing to change it? I have an NGO. I'm working with other NGOs. I have been to people who sponsor me what I need to take into locations. It's costing me not money out of my own pocket because I lost my business in COVID. But at the end of the day, I'm still trying to do the little bit I think I can do with the mindset that I have, with the intellect that I have to get people together, network, work with people that can help make the difference. So there are means that you can work with. It's not just about you coughing up the money. Go to the people who have the money and speak to them. Put together a portfolio and say what you wish to do, where you wish to go to feed, how you wish to do it. And then go and find places where you can be teaching people skills like gardening. If we have to look at this pandemic, what did it teach us? Suddenly, because we all had to stay home, everyone suddenly became a baker. They knew how to cook, and people suddenly learned how to do gardening. They learned more about their homes that they ever knew before. So go into areas and skills develop certain people. Children need to start having certain development skills implemented in their syllabus so that they are able to learn how to sustain. What is agriculture? What is farming? What do I have to do or learn in order to farm for fruit, for vegetable? How do I farm the animals? How do I go and rule the roost of an abattoir? How does everything actually happen? We need to teach this to our children. And we need to make sure that our children do not think that becoming a farmer is a bad or a low esteemed status matter. No. The farmers are needed. Farming as a skill is needed. So we need to push that out there for agriculture to grow. We need to push it out there to make sure that we reach the 2030 goal. And you know what? I think if we all really pull ourselves together and make sure that we work together, we can get there. We will be able to end the hunger. We will be able to achieve food security. We can improve nutrition across the globe, and we can promote sustainable agriculture. How? By being real. By being real, being honest, putting together initiatives, and making ourselves get involved, actively involved in sustaining and helping our children and our youth also get involved, becoming involved and making the difference. It starts with each one of us. It doesn't start with just, I need to blame somebody else that something's wrong with me. That attitude is where the problem sits. We need to also stop blaming. We need to start working, work together. The saddest part for me is when I go into these locations that I'm talking about, is when, when I have to feed somebody. There are days when we go in and we do the hot meal. So that is when we go into the area and we feed each family the hot meal for the day. So we give them a meal, but not just per person. We give them a whole lot and they will save, probably eat it at that time, and they'll save the balance for later for the day. And then, of course, I have another program where we go in and we give groceries so that they're able to sustain themselves for a period of time until the next grocery, what we call hamper, is delivered to the home. But the reason I'm saying this out loud is when we do this, when we actually have to feed, do you know who has the light in the eye that greets you the most when they're receiving from you? It's the children. It's the children who are receiving from us with the glee in their face as if you have given them the best toy on the market or the most expensive toy that they ever saw. And yet all you're doing is you're feeding them. And when you hear from an elderly person who has never seen anybody who is hungry, when you are feeding them the meal, when that elder is looking at you and saying to you, I know this has happened to me so many times, and it warms me up. It actually makes me emotional sometimes. When they say to you, thank you so much. God bless you, my child. God bless you for feeding me. When that person says that to you, when that elderly person says, God bless you for this meal, all you're wishing for is just that because you wish to do more. It's a motivating factor. It saddens you because you're actually seeing the reality. And then I come home and I make sure the next time I go to do feeding, I take my daughter with me because I want her to see the realities that other people are facing so that she can also get involved in programs like the one I'm talking about. But like I said to you, when you go out to do these feedings, it's those children. The light in their eye when you give them the meal is as if, wow. And I have one little girl who, for example, calls me Auntie M. And I love her purely because she now has a little garden patch that she looks after in her garden. And from there is where she, for example, they've grown cabbage, they've grown a potato and tomato plant. Their garden now feeds that road of people. And she waters it on a daily basis. She's now about 5 years old. She's now about 10 years old. She was 5 then. But the point is, she now loves the skill of gardening. So it takes us to actually just start somewhere. But we need to actively start somewhere to be able to say, we're getting to end hunger. We're getting to reach this goal. So I'd like to end by saying thank you again to IDYM and to our moderator of the day. And I'd like to just say to everybody who's watching to us today that zero hunger means you need to do your bit. Each one of us has to do our bit. Become aware of what's happening in your community, what is needed in your community, what is needed by your children, by your people, by people around you. Become involved and let's work together, because in our togetherness is the only way that we're going to be able to reach this goal, curb the hunger of every single person around us and around the globe. Thank you so much for listening. And I'm looking forward to listening to my fellow speakers as well. God bless.
Thank you very much, ma'am. It was really a wonderful talk. Yes, we know that everyone knows that there is a problem. We know it is a problem, but still we are not, and we also know the solutions for it. We know how to face it, but we are not ready to take a step ahead. We are not ready to come out of our comfort zones and try to solve the problem. And yes, malnutrition is really a very big problem even in India. Like there are places who have already come over the malnutrition, but still in remote areas, in rural areas, if we go, there are people, there are many children who are undernourished, and even the women, the mothers who are undernourished, and due to that they give birth to undernourished or malnourished baby. And there we say we have so many expectations from the children to go ahead in life, to achieve success, to go for Olympics. So how can we achieve this? and a very important message that you were giving, that we have to work together. And yes, that we
Yes.
should be also telling our children to accompany with us. Like even I have done that. When we go for such kind of projects, we go for in the rural schools in the rural areas, and I have been to like Anganwadis. It is the kind of preschools that we have. So when we go there, I have seen there how the children wait for the midday meal, a meal that they're going to
Yes.
get in the school. They wait a lot for that. So it was really great hearing you, ma'am, and especially I would like to appreciate you, because despite your health, you always take out time to share your views with us. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, and we will always try wait to listen more from you on various topics. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. And now I take this opportunity to call the next speaker, another versatile speaker on the IDYM platform, Dr. Emmanuel. Sir Emmanuel, sir, please take the stage. I hand over the session to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me start by thanking the IDYM for these opportunities that we are being given here to speak to the world. Now, today we are talking about zero hunger. This is something that has been sung for a long time. It's a song that has been sung for a long time. But looking at the strategies that the global village is taking against this, I can see that we are in a slow pacing. Why? Because still, I've heard my sister mentioning Africa. I'm coming from Africa. I'm a Malawian. I'm speaking from Malawi right now. So when we are talking about zero hunger, it's something that maybe if someone hears it from Africa, he or she may wonder what is it all about, because most of the people in the world, they are going on empty stomach. Most of the people in the world, they are going on empty stomach, more especially the children, because they are less advantaged. They're one of the unprivileged people, because they cannot go around looking for food for themselves. They cannot support themselves. They depend on the parents, they depend on the guardians, they depend on other well-wish to support them in terms of food. So looking at what the global it has been talking about in terms of zero hunger, it has been on the table for a long time. Now it's time when we need to bring a strategy we can as well achieve the goals that we have been singing about for a long time. Because if you look into some of the strategies that are being taken by countries, such as countries in the third world, such as Africa, such as when you talk of Latin America and Asia, you find that most of the things that are happening there are not as good as we may think. Why? Because we have got different strategies of approaching hunger all over the world. If you go to America, you find they have got their own strategies of approaching hunger. If you go to Latin America, if you go to Asia, if you go to Africa, they have got different strategies of approaching hunger. So this is another challenge that is retarding the progress of eliminating hunger in the world. Why? Most of the people in Africa and the other third world countries, we are doing agriculture in a local way. We are not incorporating what we call technology, because I understand technology can help much, but this is due to the differences that we have in terms of the approaches that we are taking against the hunger. Because you look at some of the third world countries, they are not much doing on technology. They are not much on that. Most of them, they are running things locally. What they are doing is it's like multiplying crops in a local way. But if you look into the same way, when other countries, more especially the G8 countries, you find that they are multiplying the same food, but technologically, that may make them to have more food at a very short time. So our children, our youth, as we are speaking today, this is a global youth festival. We need to talk, we need to look back and see how we can help our children, how we can help the youth, how we can promote them, how we can support them so that they get the right information in terms of producing food. how can they produce food in schools in terms of curriculum and the syllabuses that are there. Though we have got differences in the same way as you look into Africa, the third world countries, they have got their own curriculums. And if you go to other G8 countries, they have got their own curriculums. So, there are some of the things that are the hindrances that are making it not possible for the agriculture sector to progress or to develop in the third world, more especially in the developed countries. Why? Because we are not using much of the technology in order to multiply the food that we have. So even the curriculum itself, it is not teaching much about the production of food. So if you go to these third world countries, you find that the children are going on empty stomach. So once the child has gone on empty stomach and early in the morning walks up to school, when that child get into class, she will not be able to capture what data is talking about. So that is a very, very, very big challenge that we are facing. Another thing is that the wells, the strategies that we are taking, more especially Africa, to produce food, we are facing more challenges. Why? Because the fertilizer itself that is supposed to be used in producing more food is very expensive. Now, why don't we indulge into some other areas such as organic fertilizer, that is using the manure, using some other available resources, that after using those available resources, people will still be producing more food rather than depending on this inorganic fertilizer, because inorganic fertilizer nowadays is very expensive. And most of the families, more especially those families coming from the third world countries, will not be able to buy fertilizer because it is very, very expensive. Looking at that one. So the global community, the global village should sit down and also think of bringing in organic manure or organic fertilizer. These are some of the fertilizer that can be used almost for everyone, because they will just be taught how to make it. They can make it, they can make the manure. They have got the cattle, they have got the goats, they have got the pigs, they have got the chickens, they have got all those things. So using those chickens, using those goats and the like, using all those manures, we can produce organic manure that can help us to produce more food, more especially in the third world countries. If we depend on fertilizer, which is very expensive, you find that a family in these third world countries will not be able to buy a bag of fertilizer. That is a 50 kg bag of fertilizer. Will not be able to buy that. So if you come to Malawi, you find that one is very, very expensive, so that the people will not afford to buy that. So we need to come up with other strategies using available resources that we can produce this. And we need to teach our children, we need to educate our school children how they can make the manure, so that as they go up, they can as well use those techniques to make the manure so that they can grow enough food for themselves. They can even grow enough food for the world. Looking at the land itself, we have got a very large land all over the world, more especially come to Africa. You find that in Africa, we have got lands, very big land that is not being used. It's there. We have got very big lakes that have got fresh water that we can use irrigation. We can use whatever we want, dry farming. We can use that. But the water is there. The land is there. But we need some skills to properly use these lands, this water, so that we can produce enough for the whole world. There is no need for the people in the world nowadays to go on empty stomach, since God has blessed us with the land, God has blessed us with the water, God has blessed us with the skills, God has blessed us with whatever we needed to have. So why do those agriculture experts from the IMF, from the World Bank, from other G8 countries, why do they not come to these third world countries and teach the people how to do things better in a way that will not be costly? Because if we are talking about all these things in a way of costly issues, then that is mean we are putting a barrier. We are putting a barrier to the people. People will not be able to produce food. People will not be able to produce food. And the other things that even those third world countries, if they produce some of the food, so they have got some restrictions on the global market. Those G8 countries have put some restrictions that is the products that have been produced from these third world countries to be sold on the global market. They have got more restrictions. They are not simply allowed to get their food and sell there. They say they are under standard. So these are some of the issues, because these third world countries, they need money. They need economic growth. So if they sell their products on the global market, they will be able to improve themselves because they have got money. They will be able to use the technology because they have got money. But if there are some hindrances, some restrictions that they are not able to sell their products on the global market, why? Because they are looking at a certain standard of goods. So then how can they grow? How can they develop? Markets. They need to have very markets where they sell products, their crops. But with these restrictions, that means those people on the top, those countries who are on the top, they don't want those from the bottom to pick up and come on the top. Why? Because they are not sharing the idea. They are not sharing the knowledge of how those people, those countries on the bottom can also pick up and come on the top. And I think sometimes if we don't share equal information, if we don't share information on these matters globally, that means for those countries who are in the third world, will have some hard time for them to develop or to grow or to pick up to the top. It will be very, very tough. It will be very tough. It will be very tough. It will be very difficult because those on the top are not sharing the proper knowledge, are not sharing techniques, are not sharing the technology that is helping to grow economically in terms of farming, in terms of agriculture. We need to share the information globally as a global village. We need to do things together so that we need to teach our children the same things that other children are learning in the G8 countries. If we say that the curriculum, the syllabus that our children are learning in other third world countries are different from the ones that are learning in the G8 countries or from the rich countries, that means that the gap will remain there and the gap is still widening as we go. Why? Because those people are not sharing the proper information and we are not sharing the same curriculum in terms of education, in terms of the same curriculum in terms of agriculture. What the rich countries are doing, the same things should also be done with those poor countries, so that the poor countries should also pick up and get to the top. But if they are different, the technology that those rich countries are not found in poor countries, how do poor countries to develop? We need those experts from IMF, from the World Bank, and from other G8 countries to contribute information, the proper information, the proper knowledge, and also to look into the curriculums that are being used by global countries so that they should use them. We should be in line. We should be well uniformed so that we are doing the same things. What are people doing in America should also be done in Malawi, should also be done in India, should also be done in Italy, should also be done in Iran, should also be done in other countries all over the world. So if we are doing the same things, that means we have joined hands to develop. We have joined hands to grow economically in terms of eliminating hunger. So by the say that now we are living in a world where there is no hunger. So zero will can easily be achieved if we join hands, if we put our heads together. People are doing something different from the other. Other groups of people are doing different from the other. That we are not going to make it at the end of the day, because those people who are on the top are not willing to hold hands those countries who are on the bottom so that they should also come to the top. They are not sharing the right, the correct information so that these people from the third world should also use those technologies and also move from the bottom and come to the top. So if our children, if our boys are not taught how to grow food for themselves, then you find that some of the negative things that we are going to come across are: one, we are going to have a failed education. So failed education, why? Because if a child is going to school on empty stomach, then that child cannot do better in class. And also the child will be affiliated to stunted growth. That person cannot grow well. And even the brain of that student clearly. So if the brain is not growing clearly, then it is the child will have much difficulties in class to catch up with what the teacher is teaching in class. So that is already a negative a negative impact that is on the students who are coming from the third world, because they are going on empty stomach. They do not have enough food. Sometimes they spend 2-3 days without food. In Malawi, we are trying to have some centers. I have got some orphanages in Malawi whereby I'm feeding a lot of children. So a lot of children are coming just to get food, but I cannot manage on my with my pocket money to do that. We need a lot of people to come and join so that we can do that together. But that cannot help. That cannot help. And with this donor aid syndrome, this cannot help. We need to teach the people to do things themselves. If you don't teach people fishing, then you are giving them fish. You are not helping them. We needed to teach them how to fish so that they can go out and fish for themselves. And later, when they start fishing for themselves, they'll be able to feed themselves. But if you keep on giving them fish, when you die, then who is going to give the fish? Who's going to give the fish? So we need to teach the people how they can do things themselves, how they can grow food for themselves, how they can grow food to feed the whole world. If you look into Africa, Africa is very large. It's a large continent. It has got very large land. If it is properly used, it can feed the whole world. It can feed the whole world. But you find Africans that are going around begging for food. They are going to other countries where there are no land for farming. They are going there to beg for food. So it's something. It's a shame. It's a shame. Something that should not be done right now. So we are talking about eliminating hunger while we are doing nothing to teach the people so that the people know how to use the modern farming techniques so that they can grow enough for themselves. This is a challenge. So today, as we are on this global youth festival, I would like to say that let us join hands. Let us put our heads together so that those rich countries and the poor countries are working together in terms of the school curriculums, in terms of the technology, in terms of whatever we are doing. We should do those things in uniform. We should not have some differences. An equal distribution of knowledge is the one that is widening the gap between the poor and the rich. An equal distribution of information is widening the gap of the poor and the rich. So access to information for the third world countries and access of information for the rich countries should be the same. So if we are working, if you are doing things together, if we are saying things with one language, if we are speaking with one language as a global village, I am sure, by 2030, we may eliminate hunger. We may call this one the word zero hunger come true. It may come true by 2030. But if we don't cooperate together, if we don't do things together, if there is this difference between the rich countries and the poor countries, if this persists, then the song of zero hunger will be sung into generations and generations. Let me end here. Thank you very much, the host. Thank you everyone who has been listening out there, watching all over the world. We thank IDYM for the opportunity that is given to us to speak here, so that we can come up with one idea and develop globally. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. You're really excellent. We loved hearing you, and it's worth appreciating that you're feeding so many people every day. And in fact, your presentation gave the essence of sustainable development goal too, which aims to achieve food security and provide nutrition and also promote sustainable agriculture. Like throughout the globe, we are speaking at a global level. We are dealing with the same problem, and as you said, it is very important to share information. It is very very important to share knowledge, because though like the solution that you have in your country might be, they are not we cannot directly apply it, or we cannot execute the same kind of methods that you're using, but still, if we work together, if we share information, we can be achieving the goal of sustainable hunger, or sorry, of zero hunger. And as you said, if we work together, we can surely, like we are trying to work, like by 2030 we achieve this goal. And if we have people like you to share the ideas, with us to work, who are ready to work at the global level, who are ready to come out of their comfort zones and work for the people, for the benefit of the people. Surely we'll be achieving it. Okay, and thank you very much, sir. Once again, thank you very much for joining with us. And with this, I call upon the next speaker of the today's session, Ruxana ma'am, Asad Ruxana ma'am. She is also present with us. So please, ma'am, please take the stage.
Thank you, ma'am. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everyone right
Walaikum
here.
salam, ma'am.
Thank you. So it really is the first stage that I'm going to talk about in STG about zero hunger. So basically about this type of very specific SDG, there are not many people who have have this idea of actually representing zero hunger. I'm not able to turn on my video. Sorry about that. But yeah. Okay, so moving on to the topic, zero hunger. You all know that how much people are early suffering about this, right? So basically, this zero hunger, like after decades of study decline, the number of people who suffer from hunger, as measured by the prevalence of undernourishment, began to slowly increase again in 2015. So the current estimate would be around 690 million people are hungry, and around 8.9% of the world people, if I have to clearly represent it, they are hungry. And if you could see, out of 10 percentage, 10 out of 10 million people in 1 year, and nearly 60 million people in 5 years, they are left as hungry human beings. And as the moderator Anjum said, that we have the malnourished people right here in the few parts of the India as well. Well, I completely agree. And the effects of lopsided in the North House are really in a large case because that is directly affecting us in a huge cost. So the world is not on track to achieve any kind of zero hunger by 2030. So if the recent trends continue in this way, the number of the people that are affected by the hunger would be surpassing around 840 million people by 2030. So the SDG was actually inbuilt within us to achieve all these sustainable development goals within the year 2030. And currently, we are just left with 8+ years in order to get into that. So where are we? Where are we tracking ourselves at the current moment? That's the question that we need to ask ourselves. And according to the food program, that is around, they say that around 135 million people suffer from acute hunger. So if you people know about what acute hunger and how this affects the large boundary of the mass of the people, then that would be the devastating truth that you never want to hear. And largely because these are the man-made conflicts, and they go into this category only because of the man-made destructions. And if you could see, like, there are other such conflicts like climate change and environmental and economical downturns. So these are the few reasons that contribute to such. And mainly, if I have to talk about, the COVID-19 pandemic could now double that number. So this puts up a huge risk that even the people who were feeding themselves earlier are not now able to do that. So currently, putting an additional 130 million people at risk of suffering by acute hunger in the end of 2020, this has been a largest tragedy that has ever happened. So, if I have to be very specific on the quarter billion people, around more than a quarter of a billion people potentially at the brink of starvation. And there are countries like Somalia where people are malnourished to the extent that they develop a lot of issues, and they face a lot of issues in order to survive their life. And those children that they give birth to, they are at the risk of dying by not even able to survive at least around 5 years of their life. So where are we? And at the same time, a profound change has to be made, right? So this profound change of the global food and agriculture system is very needed, but because if we are able to nourish more than 619 people who are hungry today, and the additional 2 billion people that got hungry because of the COVID-19 pandemic, we will be having the world in a sustainable condition by 2050. So this can be achieved only when we increase the agricultural productivity, sustainable food productions, and also these are very crucial in order to help the elevate perils of the hunger. So let me just clearly explain to you what this goal is. So this goal is basically introduced to end the hunger and achieve the food security. So when I talk about food security, is saving the food for the current and saving the food for the future. So that's all you have to develop with. And this goal really advocates on the improved nutrition and also promotes the sustainable agriculture. So this sustainable agriculture will be sustainable for the rest of their years and will be guiding the future as well. So why should this goal go ahead? Well, we all know that the extreme hunger and the malnutrition remains a barrier to a sustainable development country, right? So even though we are having this barrier, even though we have this such barrier, there are things that needs to be corrected in order to avoid such stuff, right? So the hunger and malnutrition can become or mean less to the people who are coming into the decades right now, who are the riches and who don't care about the lopsided. So this is where the issue starts. So when you start to ignore the people who are the lowest part of the economy, then you start to lose them. And when you start to lose the basement of the country or a world, then you start to lose yourself in the nearest future. So this fact is not being understood by the majority of the people. And still, if they do understood, they are still procrastinating and profusely refusing these people. So this is what we need to correct. And hunger and malnutrition means, there are less productive individuals who are prone to many diseases and thus often unable to earn more and improve their livelihoods. So there are around nearly about 800 million people who suffer from hunger worldwide, and the vast majority is in the developing country. Would you believe this? Like literally, a profound change of the global food and agriculture system is needed today's 795 million hungry plus, and the additional 2 billion increase in the global population expected by 2050. So, if we are focusing on 2030 right now, then we will be able to overcome all these struggles in the near future. Maybe, for example, inshallah, by the year 2050. So, if I have to, make it very clear, there are new evidence that continues to signal that the true number of hungry people in the world is just growing and not stopping at the point. So the reaching about 821 million people in 2017, or one in every nine people. Imagine the count that it would bring to when the population rises up. So hunger has been the rise of the past 3 years, like from the past decade, if I have to be very specific. And this reversal is a progress that sends a clear warning that there must be more done and urgently in order to develop a sustainable development goal of zero hunger to be achieved by 2030. So the situation will get worse. Okay. In the nearest future, for example, in South Africa and most region of Africa, with enough food to feed everyone on the planet, why are there so many hungry peoples? So the main ignorance that happens right here is that people start to use the resources that they have, that they know that they are limited, but they use it on excessive. on excessiveness to the extent that they are ignoring the fact that there are other people who need them as well. And poor harvesting practices. This will be leading to such a huge disgrace, and the as well as there is this food shortage and food wastage that have been contributed a large part to the food security threat. So the wars also have started to have a negative impact because the countries who have to work in the cause of promoting the zero hunger, who have to work in the cause of helping people figure out how they should be coming out of such crisis, are now creating a war across the world in order to capture a land. So this shouldn't happen. And if this happens and this situation continues in the near future, I wouldn't really guarantee that there will be future for our children's. And wars have also started to have very negative impact on the land, which actually makes the person not to cultivate anything, even across after like even the war stops, they will not be able to cultivate anything in the land that had a lot of bombs, right? So these are the negative destructions, and they have led to a destruction of the great environment. So when the environment is good, then this zero hunger will be solved because we need agricultural lands in order to survive. And recently, when I was surfing around the net, I found a person who was actually, like the people of mainly if I have to be very specific, I wouldn't like to specify the nation, but I would love to say that there are these people who have been drinking the unused water to an extent that the water looks far more darker. And I wouldn't comprehend to tell you that there are kids who are starving for, months ahead and just barely surviving with the water that are, polluted to the extent that you wouldn't want to look at that even. And even if I am today talking before you all, today I am nourished by the grace of Almighty. I am nourished. And while I'm educating all of you, there is a necessity that I shouldn't stop myself right here. I should start feeding the people so that that would make a graceful effect all across. And you might ask, why should I care? Okay, so we all have our families and we all want our families to have enough food to eat, and that is safe and nutritious, right? So why wouldn't you want something for your brother that which you want for yourself? Why don't you think in the perspective of your brother? Why don't you put yourself in the shoe of your brother in order to have this discussion going on, in order to have this sustainable thing develop in the nation? Ask this question to yourself, because you as humans are a single body. You as brothers and sisters are a single body, and even if one person is having a fever, then even if one part of the body is having any defects, then the whole body will come to a point that it will undergo a lot of stress, and it will undergo, to be very specific, any kind of diseases. So that's how you have to think for your brothers and sisters. See, a world with zero hunger can positively impact our economies. So if I feed, so there is this quote that goes on like, if you are the lead of an organization, make sure that the workers of your organization are well fed. So, with this being sending you a greater example, I would say that a world with zero hunger can positively impact our economies, health, education, equality, and social development. So, this is a key piece of building a future for everyone, and additionally, with hunger limiting the human development. So, when hunger starts, it is a warning that we have been losing all our natural resources, or we have been misusing all our natural resources. And additionally, with hunger limiting human development, we will not be able to achieve the other sustainable development goals. As I've already said, that this is a warning sign that we have been losing or misusing the resources that we have on hand. So now let's come to a clear point that how much will it cost me to achieve the zero hunger? So approximately, if the entire nations join their hands with UN sustainable development goals, we will need an estimated additional of about dollars 267 billion per year, or an average, to end world hunger by 2030. So how are you going to create this fund? Ask this question to yourself. Okay. Then point number two, there will be need to investments in rural and urban areas, and in social protection, so that poor people have the access to food and can live, improve their livelihoods. So there is no benefit in me begging people who are also not well nourished in their own stance. So what should be done? The promotion of economicism has to happen right here, right? So tell me, like, how are you going to contribute to your economy for the people who are not able to contribute because of the fact that they are malnourished, because of the fact that they are not well enough to be coping up with the mechanism that goes on right here? So now let's draw to a conclusion. What can you do to help? See, you can make changes, make a lot of change in your own country. And this change doesn't stop right there, because you are a person who is of much potential, that you can really bring a lot of development to the entire world across. And so at work and in community, you can support this kind of local farmers or markets, and making sustainable, which are like making sustainable food choices, supporting good nutrition for all, and fighting food waste. So when you start to ignore the fact that the world is on a crisis, you ignore the fact that other people exist as well. And that's what I'm stressing from the start. So do not ignore the people, even if they don't contribute to your economy in a single stance, because in the near future, you will need these people in order to support you. But when you lose your basement, you will lose the whole nation as a whole. And you can also use your power as a consumer or as a voter, by demanding the business and governments, and to really make the changes and change that. These changes should be in accordance with zero hunger. And if zero hunger is corrected, then you should be knowing that everything is in the near future is already done. So make choices that are wise, and zero hunger is a reality that has to happen. And you have to join the conversation, whether on social media platforms or in your local community. And you can also join the zero hunger challenge that has been already raised across. And also, you as a person, you will have to contribute more individually than expecting the government and the society, and the societal facts to do such kind of activities all across. So start the change within yourself, from your own community, and then develop the change and go across and start changing the world. So be the change that you want to see in the world. And I thank the Almighty for giving me this graceful opportunity for participating today. And I also like to thank all of you for helping me to come across.
Thank you very much, ma'am. That was really wonderful listening to you. And the points that you raised, that if you want to bring the change, we have to be the change. And yes, and a very important thing that I find a unique thing that you were speaking about, like about food wastage. In fact, if you see, like a lot of food is being wasted every day. Though we know that there are many people who are not able to find a meal, at least a single meal for a day, but we are wasting a lot of food. And in fact, if we look at the average of a city, the food that is wastage either in homes or in hostels or due to wedding parties, they are enough to feed thousands of people. And there are organizations which have been working on it, but it is again like every one of us has been speaking, we have to come together, we have to share information, and we have to work together. Only then we will be able to achieve the goal. And Ruxana ma'am, I just want you to speak something more. Would you like to give a message to every one of us through this platform? We are waiting for your message.
Okay, so the message that I want to deliver all across is that to start the change, to become an agent of change by helping the people to, really revolutionize yourself. So this is the point that I want to stress up. So when you become the change, then the world will change eventually, and you will have to take care of the consequences that comes in a good way all across.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the wonderful message. And I think we are done with the speakers, all the speakers. But yes, we are blessed to have amongst us our favorite reviewer of the session, Dr. Bedkar sir. Sir, we have missed you yesterday. We were really missing you, and we are fortunate enough to have you today. And we are waiting to hear from you. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Anjum Qureshi madam, today's moderator. I am audible, madam?
Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you. And all the renowned resource persons contributing on this new topic of hungry and malnutrition of the world problem. So, as an educator or the citizen of the world, we should see one point. There are two facts in the world or in any country. There are five-star hotels and they are wasting tons of food daily. And there is one side in the country, same thing, that the children are hungry. To meet this condition, every citizen should plan something. Why they are wasting the foods? Because we are not preparing for the order in advance. They become ready to prepare the order of various dishes. They may be wasted if the consumers are not visited. So all the facts where food is actually going to waste, it should be properly managed, channelized, so that it will reach to the hungry children of the country. And the resource persons also have informed about the production of the agriculture, all the yields of the country. So that is also the alternative. But there is this major, we have to think that where is wasting the food daily? That food should be, if it is managed properly, without preparing that food in advance, if they are wasting, so this can be done properly to do the zero hungriness and to actually the proper thing. Thank you, madam, for giving me opportunity to speak here. Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir. We always like listening to you. And thank you for joining. And it was another session, a very important message, which was given by everyone that we have to work together. We have to understand the problems. Actually, this is a common problem, though we are working. But since there, we fail to understand it. So, so we just need to work together, and if we like try to implement what we all have been speaking, and surely we will be achieving the goal. And with this, we come to the end of the session, and I would like to thank our eminent speakers, Dr. Mehreen Mia ma'am, Dr. Emmanuel sir, and Ruxana ma'am, and obviously the reviewer, Dr. Bedkar sir, and Ravi Shankar sir, and two very dynamic ladies who are always with us from the IDYM team, Zinat Munawara ma'am and Dinu Lasmi ma'am. And with this, we come to the end of the session. Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, one and all.